Hello and welcome back to the all-new, all-different number one comics podcast. I'm Dan, that's Benny. Benny, what is going on? We just talked off air for a sec, but tell the audience how you're doing.
I'm doing wonderful, Daniel. I'm happy to sit down and chat more about the new Ultimate line. Today we're going to be going over the Ultimate Black Panther.
Right? This one's so cool. And I think now at this point, it's like our tradition. You and I got to hit every Ultimate book in the universe. But
No. We have to do the modern ones at least. I don't think I can go back to the past.
Sure. That's what I meant. Moving forward. Yeah, but we'll hit some Peach Momoko X-Men and everything. But I'm really excited about this. This is we'll get into it and everything, but critically, I think this has already been pretty acclaimed. I think people will have a lot of cool stuff to say about this book. But yeah, this is the second installment into the new Ultimate Universe, the proper installment there, and they're just building this thing up. They're like not holding back. They got some top talent on this, and these people are like coming up with ideas.
Ooh, yeah. We got Bryan Edward Hill writing for us, and Stefano Caselli. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
I'm glad you said it because I wasn't going to be close, but yeah, top tier on this. I mean, really, really good creative team. Yeah, really good stuff. How about we just get into it and go over the book? I mean, we both got busy schedules today. I say we just hit it, attack it head on, and talk about it. So
hit the ground running.
Yeah, why not? I mean, this book does. So, in regards to that, we'll do the same thing. But yeah, Ultimate Black Panther 1 opens up with an attack on a West African quarry by Moon Knight soldiers. And let me stop right there for a second so you and I can discuss this Moon Knight soldiers things or Moon Knight forces. I don't know what we're supposed to call them yet, but I mean, they're not really explicitly like named or anything in this book, so that's kind of just what I'm calling them. But like Moon Knight is like Khonshu and Ra like separated. It's like two forces.
Really crazy. In this in the Ultimate line, it looks like Khonshu and Ra are a lot more of a Hydra or AIM organization where they have a bunch of grunts and high-tech imagery. Definitely not the superhero of the past. It's definitely a bad dude. It starts off with them raiding a village, and they do it twice in this issue, actually, so they got a lot going on, and definite big baddies so far.
Yeah, for sure. I like how they are here, but I'm wondering if there might be like a twist to that at some point. I mean, of course, we won't find that out until later. It's not like we find out exactly what their intentions are in this book, but we can only assume that it's to like conquer, take over. That's what it's looking like. So from there, we have those Moon Knight forces in to come claim the land, and there's, of course, in Wakandan fashion, there's like some spies witnessing this event, and they witness what's going on. They don't interfere at all, of course, and they run back to Wakanda to tell their king about what's going on. Now, did you have thoughts on that? Because when that was first happening, like, I don't know about you, but like for me, I was like, all right, they know they're not supposed to get involved. They know they're not supposed to interfere or anything, but it seemed like they really wanted to. So I kept thinking like somebody's going to go rogue here for a second.
Yeah, Wakanda in comics has a big policy of non-interference. They hid from the world for a larger amount of time, and seems Ultimate Universe is pretty similar way where they're super highly advanced, but are kind of taking a backseat to the global politics. And I am a sucker for whenever like soldiers or spies on the front line just have to watch something terrible happen because they know that the information they currently have is of more value than actually saving the people in front of them. And every time it's a gut punch to me and the person.
Yeah, definitely. It makes you almost want to like get in there and tap them on the shoulder. Get in there, do something about it. But we are spectators too, so there's not much we can do about it. From there, T'Challa, next up we switch to a new scene, and T'Challa's waking up from a nightmare next to his queen Okoye, and I think I'm saying that right. I never pronounce that like exactly right, but I'm gonna go with Okoye. And we learn that the Maker, over in the Ultimate Universe, had Khonshu and Rai overseeing Africa, but of course Wakanda has its doors closed, and they're just kind of now opening it. At least that's what it narrates in the comics. So yeah, they're kind of opening their doors, and then it just gives that little tiny bit of exposition that that the Maker had Khonshu and Rai overseeing Africa.
Yeah, Maker's got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies in his universe. I really want to point out the design for Ra and Khonshu. They are like these bald twins with a black and a white suit and with the tattoo of the gods. I'm not sure if they are representatives or the actual gods themselves or stand-ins, but I want to see more from those two just because the design kills.
I think we're gonna see some more. I'm pretty sure in that second issue we're gonna see some more of them. But yeah, I'm with you. That is a really cool design, and that's something that I would say, going back to the Ultimate Universe, especially in its first incarnation and all of that. A lot of times you left it to the classics. You look at Peter Parker's Spider-Man costume and everything, and it's that classic costume. But sometimes you get these updates on these characters. Every now and again, you get like a whole new redesign of them and everything. I remember seeing that in a lot of villains and stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about what new ideas they're bringing forth in this universe. It's really cool and different. Next up in the comic book, we've got T'Challa and T'Chaka, his father, discussing. I'm gonna go with Voodoo Khan, but again, like I pronounce everything horribly. So that's a religious group that T'Challa doesn't necessarily agree with, and
one that he respects the place of.
Yes, yeah. He does. He's not necessarily like agreeing with their stance, but yeah, like you said, he respects. And then in our next scene, T'Challa goes to see the leader of Voodoo Khan, and he's told that they sense violent enemies outside of Wakanda's walls. Now, I really like this a lot. I think that this is really cool because you're getting into that like weird political and then religious zone and stuff that sadly like kind of like exists in a weird like gray area in our world too. But yeah, it's very interesting, the ideas and politics that they're able to lay out in Black Panther. It's very interesting, especially the new ideas that they're bringing forth in this Ultimate Universe. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, T'Challa, a lot of this issue, he's somewhat listening to his advisors, yep, but not taking what they're saying to heart. And it just keeps going until the very end, where there's a breaking point. We, if we want to go into that now, we see at the very end, T'Challa is in front of his people where there is a suicide bomber. Mm-hmm. And after that, it kills his father because T'Chaka has to be blown up in every iteration, I guess.
Yeah, they can't keep him alive.
He, after going the whole issue kind of downplaying everything, T'Challa says, "To war."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, such a striking end to this book. I mean, it's not that I'm going to say that I wasn't anticipating that he would announce war. I mean, I feel like that was kind of a given, but just the setup and everything here is just done in such a wonderful way that even though, it's not that was surprising or anything, I mean, that's what needed to take place. I can't imagine any other outcome here, for him to just sit on that after that happens, it isn't going to happen. There's no way in hell. So,
No.
So yeah, I mean, war has been waged here, and yeah, Wakanda versus the Khonshu and Ra forces. In between that, something really important happens too, because at the same time we're getting, like you had mentioned before, there's another West African village that is being taken over by these Moonite forces, and it looks like they're about to step in and kill this little kid, and all of a sudden Killmonger shows up. And that,
Ooh, yes.
yeah, that
In this beautiful outfit with this like
outstanding outfit.
African headdress. I just
Mhm.
want to do an aside. Stefano absolutely knocks it out of the park.
God
He
kills it,
has
right?
he's done a bunch of Marvel stuff like X-Men Red, my
Mhm.
current favorite X-Men run, Iron Man, Avengers, and all of the designs in this are stellar and iconic.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like that, I, I'm hoping that next MegaCon or something, I see somebody in like some cosplay because that is such a
Mm.
cool design. It looks really really awesome. I'm with you on that. Yeah, and that from there, that's a big point. And then another one happens because we have now. I don't have it written down. I can't remember the other person's name. Was it Wind Rider? Was that the name of the?
Wind Rider, which
Yes,
is for
Wind Rider.
sure
Yes,
Storm, my one of my favorite
exactly
X
right.
Men.
Yes,
We
gotta be
don't
Storm.
actually see her. She is completely enshrouded by lightning. She is the Storm. I really like her. It seems her and Killmonger have a thing going on.
Mhm.
He talks about her in kind of a romantic way when they're fighting alongside each other, and she doesn't actually get to say anything in this issue, tragically. But I am excited to see going forward what she and Killmonger are up to, because they seem somewhat at odds not just with Ra and Khonshu, but also Wakanda. They look down at them for their non-interference while these villages are getting razed to the ground by these soldiers. And which also includes one of my favorite tropes where a child's ball rolls away
Right.
and a soldier just stomps on it. Every time, it always gets me.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful trope, a very good one. I like it a lot too. It's just it's so iconic, and it was a great thing to interject into this book. And I'm with you. I love the team up there. If we're getting who we think this is, Storm, which I mean, uh, how could it be anybody else? But
How could it
yeah,
be not?
right. If we're getting Storm and Killmonger, and Storm's got a cool new code name, and it's Wind Rider. I'm all about that. I love that. I think it's really cool. What do you think the implications, or maybe not implications, but what do you think about what does this do to X-Men? Ultimate X-Men coming out. Is Storm not a part of that? Is Storm, maybe still a part of the team, but like on a side mission here with Killmonger? Like, how does that work?
Ooh, so Storm's original story way back when was
Mhm.
that she was kind of seen as an African goddess,
Mhm.
and it seems that uh, Edward is taking it back to her roots, and she's going to be playing a very similar role. I know in the Ultimate line that mutants were the cause of like some shield experiments, and that there wasn't really an X gene or something, that
Mhm.
they were just kind of a genetic fluke that happened because of human interference. So I have no idea if that's going to play out in the new Ultimate lineup, but or how much Storm will be involved. Personally, I hope she kind of keeps to the Black Panther line, just because she and T'Challa have such a storied history in the comics.
Oh yeah, a great history. I love all of those. Wedding issues and everything. There were some really really cool stuff there. Some really great history. But yeah, I mean that's look. It's a lot that happens in this book. So that's what happens in this book. Really a lot to unpack. I think we're already singing the praises here, but let's go into like a little bit of our thoughts on it and everything. Like, what do you think about the writing and the narrative and everything of this?
The writing, honestly, didn't grip me the strongest, but that's because it seems a lot of it is a kind of political and war story, which just doesn't always hold my interest,
Mhm.
especially when I'm going to read comics. I'm there for the vigilantism and the epic superhero fights, but I think this is going to be building up to something big and tie into the rest of the Ultimate Universe in a very nice way. Wakanda is an absolute powerhouse in the Marvel Universe, and they are just going to sit back while the Maker does what he does.
Yeah, absolutely not. They're definitely there to stir some shit up. That's for sure. Now, I want to ask you: do you have thoughts? What do you want to see out of this? Like, what would make issue number two for you? Like, is there anything that you're anticipating? Anything that you're like, I have to see this in the next issue? This is a deal breaker, or this is something that would really ramp it up for me, or anything like that.
Honestly, Storm. Going back to her, she's my favorite leader of the X-Men.
Hmm.
And Stefano is wonderful at drawing her and depicting her. In the X-Men Red, she kind of takes back that goddess title a lot of the time and
Yep.
commands the very weather. And the way he just twists the pen and ink to form her powers is amazing on page.
Yeah, that one single that reveal of her that we get in this comic is outstanding. You know, it's far back. It's yeah, but I mean, there's so much going on. We're seeing so much of her power set just right there, which is really cool. And I'm with you. I think that I kind of agree. You know, I look, the last thing I want to read about or hear about is war right now. I think that we're all a little you know, we can push that off to the side. I mean, of course, you know, there's always going to be something going on in the comic book. We don't want to see, you know, people just holding hands or anything, but uh, definitely, you know, there's a conflict, and I really like the conflict here. I think it's good. Uh, you know, I definitely would like to be taken out of the war element of it. I see it's going to play a big part, though, or at least these Moon Knight forces and these factions, you know, kind of taking over or whatever. But I think definitely I want to see the vigilante aspect of it. I want to see Killmonger and Wind Rider get in there and really stir some stuff up. I think that that's what's selling this book for me at this point.
Also, I would love to see like Merc Spectre and the rest of him be a general in Khonshu's army. I think that would be kind of a nice bow because he's I believe that he starts his run kind of in Egypt when he's gunned down and has to pray to actual statue of Khonshu, and I think they could. It doesn't need to be a big role, but it'd be fun if they just do a little nod to him and show what he's up to in this new universe.
Yeah, again, I'm hoping that they flesh that out. I'm hoping that they really flesh out what's going on with Killmonger here, and yeah, I think that this book, you know, T'Challa is obviously going to be a central character, and the whole royal court and everything is going to be very important. But I think it's going to be these side characters that really do it for people like you and me. Maybe side characters isn't the right term, but you understand what I mean. Like
Yeah,
not the central focus of just the Black Panther. We need to see a little more than that. We're very used to that at this point. And if they're going the route that it seems like they're going, then it's a traditional Black Panther story. We already kind of know what to expect, and it's not really given that ultimate treatment. But you bring in Wind Rider, you bring in you know, Khonshu and everything. Yeah, now it's a little different. Now there's something different happening in this universe. So I think that that's really important that they stick the landing on that.
exactly. And I mentioned it before. The designs are killer.
Yeah.
Matron Amala, who T'Challa was talking to, she has this really neat black and green hooded shroud. There's the Khonshu and Raw soldiers, which are kind of futuristic. There is one design that is a bit of a letdown, and unfortunately, it is the Black Panthers itself. It's
Mhm.
really nice, pretty sleek, with some indents and jewelry, but it just has an open mouthpiece that I cannot get past.
Yeah, the mouthpiece is a little interesting. I'll definitely give it that. I think that I was looking for somewhat of an update to the whole design. I mean, like you said, there are things done to it. You know, it's not just the traditional Black Panther suit and everything, but I don't know. I think I wanted like a little something more out of it. I think that that is probably the thing in the issue that fell the most flat for me, was the design of the character there, the costume design rather. Everybody else looks great, you know, everything, and it is a great design. I mean, don't get me wrong, Black Panther always looks great. The costume looks amazing. I just wanted that ultimate like update to it. I wanted something a little bit different, and I don't think it delivered quite as much on that end. but I'm with you on the art. The art is fantastic. It definitely stands out in this book. This is what you want for your Ultimate Universe, definitely. Just like the art was, nailed on that Ultimate Spider-Man book, it's definitely nailed here. Very, very good. We didn't take
Yep, there's
crazy stylistic choices, but it's really good.
there's a couple full page spreads, one double page spread, which is really nice. And oh man, Wakanda is beautiful. It is one
Very.
of the fictional cities that I want to visit the most. It is the first like full look we get of it is T'Challa in his undies, not a bad look, gazing out over a shining, beautiful city, and it's like I'm there.
Yeah, they definitely, go all out here. The colors pop. Everything's done so wonderful. I think that this was a really, really good collaboration. Put some really good creators together and really pulled something nice off here. They're like I said at the beginning of this, and like we said at the Ultimate Spider-Man episode, like they're really not holding back on telling these Ultimate stories. They revived it, or brought it back for a reason. They had a reason to tell these stories, and they're very fleshed out and they're the tone is there and the look is there. I still have so much faith in this. That's two issues proper so far that have come out that have just nailed it. So I'm with you. I'm very stoked about this. Benny, we don't normally do this, but I think just for the sake of the Ultimate Universe, this is the only
Yeah.
time I'm going to ask you this when we do Ultimate books. Give me a number rating.
A number rating. Ooh, of this book, I'm gonna have to go a 7. It was really nice, but it didn't wow me as much as I was expecting, especially from Stefano. I did take a look at some of Bryan Edward Hill's other stuff just to see what he gets up to, and he is all across the place. He's done Angel and Buffy books, he's done Far Cry stuff, DC and Marvel, and even something for the band Kiss.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But how about you? What would you rate it on a scale 1 to 10?
It's so hard, and I always that's why I don't like doing number ratings. But I always want to throw those half points in there too. But I think I would go 8.5. I think an 8.5 is solid for me. I really did enjoy this. I read it. I've read it 4 times since it's come out. It's a very good book. It's very fun to read. I think the only thing I take off points for are kind of the stuff that I said. Like, I don't want to be reminded of war right now. That's not something that I'm too keen on right this second. And I think it was a missed opportunity to not update that Black Panther costume. But other than that, I love this. I think it's done really, really well. So yeah, I think I would go 8.5.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, but this is a solid recommendation for me. I'm not quite sure if I'll check out the second issue yet. If it does have Storm, I definitely will. But personally, the story isn't that gripping for me. But I recommend that somebody check it out just in case it is, because the art alone is worth it.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think the main thing I can say about this book, as far as recommending it or anything, is look. A lot of time, there's been a lot of volumes of Black Panther. Sure, there's been some great ones. The Tanahashi Coates one was really good. The current run is hit or miss. Like you have to be like I feel like you have to be like a pretty big fan already. I don't feel like it's that accessible. But I will say, this is pretty accessible as long as you know what happened in this new Ultimate Universe with the Maker. You can jump in right here, and it tells you enough. There's enough exposition. So I feel like for like a new reader of Black Panther, this isn't too intimidating, and I feel like that's really important. Just like I feel like even though not having all of that history of Peter Parker, Spider-Man that you and I have, if you walk into a comic book shop and Ultimate Spider-Man #1 is your first comic book, might be a little bit confusing, sure, but you can jump in and start off with that story and understand where it's going. I feel like this is very accessible to readers, and it's very good fan service for seasoned readers like you and me. So I'll definitely be checking out issue #2, and I definitely recommend everybody check this out. And I think that those are two really good and unique points of view on this book. So I think we have a little bit something there for everybody, but you're definitely not hearing, any 1 stars or any, not recommends. So
Ultimate Universe has come out swinging, and I'm
Yeah.
excited for whatever for new heroes have new fresh twists on them.
Yeah, likewise. Really excited about that. Well, unless you have anything else to say about it, Benny, I think that wraps us up on Ultimate Black Panther #1.
Just a shout out to the paneling. It's not the most standout, but it's very clean. And when images do break the border, they're usually for a purpose. Like T'Challa has a nice one where he's standing with somebody, and there's no real background, but he kind of steps into another panel. But yeah, Stefano is pretty great at his job. I recommend checking out his other stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm with you, and like you said, that X-Men Red stuff is top notch. So I absolutely recommend that as well. Cool. Well, then that is the review from Benny and I. And yeah, you guys go to your local shops. Actually, I would say go to your local shops and pick up a copy of Black Panther #1, but or Ultimate Black Panther #1. But as you and I both know, just like Ultimate Spider-Man #1, it completely sold out day of release. So maybe pick
Yes.
up a second printing.
Yeah, you're gonna have to order these ahead of time if you want to actually
yes,
get a piece.
yeah, it looks like that. And maybe this is good advice for all of you looking to pick up that Ultimate X-Men #1. Maybe hit up your local comic book shop now and reserve a copy, because I think pulling up Wednesday morning and expecting a copy in your hand might be hard. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Benny. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you next time, especially next time.
All right, see you later, everyone.
Welcome back to the all new, all different #1 comics podcast and the We Read a Comics podcast. That's a newer offshoot that we're doing, but we've got a special creator interview on the line today. And you know what? I should have done off air. You're going to get a nice peek behind the curtain here, everybody listening, because I'm horrible at pronouncing names. So I'm just going to go off and try on my own and most likely mess up. I think I'll get the Tom part, hopefully, but I'm going to go with Drogalis.
That's pretty close, Dan.
Ah,
Most people get the Tom part right, which is
yeah,
lucky,
yeah,
and it's pronounced Drogalis, so it's close
Drogalis.
enough. I usually will not correct people; it's not worth it.
Hey, well, I like to get as close as possible, but my God, I'm terrible at pronouncing names of all kinds. Yeah, I'm surprised I can say Tom, so thank God for that. But
You're all good.
we've got Tom on the line here. Tom, you've got a new book coming out, and this is dropping. This is exciting because this is dropping in just a couple of days. This is dropping Valentine's Day, February 14th, here 2024, from Scout Comics. This is Divine Power Made Me, issue #1. Welcome in, and please tell us about the book.
Of course. First of all, thank you for having me, Dan. It's such a pleasure. And yeah, so we've got Divine Power Made Me. So it's like you said, it's coming out this February 14th, Valentine's Day. Uh, I was always very excited when I saw that date. I'm like, what better way to celebrate Valentine's Day than with a little bit of cults, ritualistic murder, monsters, all this other kind of stuff. Um, but I'll give you the short synopsis, because the one that I wrote is a bit on the longer side, and I think I've learned my lesson not to keep it short, keep people's attention. Um, but the log line was, after being executed by a religious cult, Virgil finds himself in the afterlife, making a deal with the first god. And then he's trying to navigate the afterlife, find his parents, and find out more about his death and just like the conception of the universe in general. Um, you'll get a little bit of a sneak peek in issue 1 of just like the Genesis story of how the universe was created, and just a small snippet of the first god. And then after that, it really just kind of follows Virgil and what it's like to be in the afterlife.
I love this because this is, I guess, disclaimer really quick. Let me tell everybody. You know this, Tom. You and I know this, but the audience doesn't yet. I was able to read an advanced copy, so I have I do know what happens here in the first issue. I won't go into any spoiler for any of that, because like trust me when I tell you guys, you're gonna want to pick this up. This is intense. But this is to me just the subject matter itself. I don't know how you feel. I don't know. You know, a lot of people are different. People have different beliefs, thoughts, whatever. I'm good with that. But the afterlife is like one of the most terrifying things in the entire world to me. Just on principle alone, I'm like, God, no, please just tell me it all ends after this, and I don't have to do anything else, please. So so to even think, you might be spending an eternity or less or whatever somewhere else, is a scary thought. So you've already got my attention there, but. um, yeah, this is a cool book. It's a very very unique perspective, and I can tell you guys this: you you get dropped the hell in. It gets explained, so it's not that like you get dropped in and you don't know what's going on, but uh, Tom doesn't hold back. Like there's no let me build like a whole bunch of exposition. Let me make sure that you really like know this character. Like I mean, we deal with the character and we understand the character well and everything, but there's not pages and pages of exposition to lead up to this or anything. Like you get dropped into this story, so buckle up and and get ready for the ride because it's pretty intense. Where did this story come from, Tom?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I started working on this idea. I had always been a big fan of Dante's Inferno.
Hmm.
So actually, the the title of the story, Divine Power Made Me, is at least my translation that I had for a long time, is part of the ascription above the gates of hell, basically. I should have it memorized by now. I've read it so many times. The inscription, like ye who enter here. I can't even. I'm not even going to try and embarrass myself. Um, but it really, it when I was actually first starting to come up with the idea for this story, it followed much more closely Virgil in a more traditional hellscape in like a Dante-esque environment. And the more I sat, the more I thought about it, the more I wrote, I'm like, I really just kind of want to make this my own thing. So I also didn't want to get anybody mad. That was another big thing with I don't want to, jump too much um, into religious topics. It's like that old saying, religion and politics. You always keep that off the
Yep.
discussion
Keep that to
table.
yourself. Yeah.
Um, so with that said, I'm like, okay, rather than doing that, I'm just going to kind of take everything from scratch. So if you'll kind of notice in the first issue, um, and I put a couple of previews in different places about the first 10 pages. So if people have heard about it or if they've seen that, you kind of see the priest character, and he's what's known as a Yazite. And talking about bad pronunciations, like I wrote the word and I can't say it properly. My buddy Fred, who's an Argentinian artist who worked on the book, he says it beautifully. So I've established that he knows how to say it. I don't, even though I wrote it. Um, and uh, you'll kind of notice even at the beginning, it's like the Genesis story is very, very different than any of the other Genesis stories, although it takes concepts that are similar. You have like the first being, and like what's the first being's deal? It seems like they've got a lot of power. They're kind of making the world around them. And I also wanted to kind of explore what it would be like to be dropped in a world fully formed, in a sense, fully formed with and just randomly gaining sentience. It's kind of a very daunting idea to go from nothing into a fully fledged person with your own thoughts and ideas and perspectives, because us as humans, it's not something that we can really fathom because we've had a lifetime to develop our ideas and our personalities. So it's kind of, in a sense, it's kind of scary to go from nothing to something, and that's kind of also the thesis statement of the story. The first sentence of the book is, how does something come from nothing, which will be kind of explored throughout the story. But yeah, that's been a little bit of my thought process. I wanted to really look into some different kinds of philosophies, but I also wanted to tell just a fun story. I've been influenced by a lot of, you know, Western comics like DC and Marvel, and then I think Saga is probably one of my favorite comics of all time.
One of the goats,
Um,
yes.
but then you've got manga, which is, I feel that's king everywhere right
Hmm.
now. And I love the shonen style of storytelling where you have a protagonist, and in a lot of situations you kind of know where that protagonist has to go throughout the entire story. So I wanted to do that, and although it's not entirely clear in the first issue, Virgil, who's the main character's motivations, other than kind of he's dead, you know, his parents are also dead, so it's kind of pointing towards that direction. Um, but you'll get a better sense when things in the story start to develop, specifically Virgil and the main god meeting, since that's in all of my pitches. Eventually they're going to meet the first god and Virgil, and how does that work out?
And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I think that, you know, it's an important aspect of this book, of course, uh, you know, moving along, is the cult aspect of it. Where did that come from in the story? Is I mean, I don't know, like where where's that coming from? How did you incorporate like elements of occult and stuff into it? Because like you're playing with like a lot of things here, but they all make sense together. It really works together, and I really want to see how this plays out. I think the cult aspect of it's going to be very important. I'm assuming. I mean, you're the creator, so you know, don't spoil it for me. Don't tell me, but
Well, you know, Dan, lucky enough,
Mhm,
beginning of issue 2 starts off with a flashback to the day before Virgil dies. And surprisingly enough, what I wanted to do is show that it's very normal. You know, there's a reason that Virgil and his family have lived in this lifestyle for so long. It's supposed to be very idyllic and beautiful and nice. But to kind of get back to your question about where this is coming from, um, I did grow up with a lot of religion in my life. I grew up uh, Roman Catholic, so it's a very, very kind of a strict religious upbringing, and I wanted to incorporate aspects of that, but also, you know, other parts of just religion in general. So this is not one religion, although you're going to see the most influences from the things that I have experience from, which is going to be Roman Catholicism. Um, and then I also just have a background in criminal justice. So I have my bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice, and then my master's in forensic mental health counseling. And even right now, I'm working with the seriously mentally ill population of New York City, and just helping them reintroduce them to society, people who are on Rikers Island. And so there's a bunch of different elements from work and my religion, and I wanted to incorporate everything and make something interesting. Um, Also, just in general, I feel like cults are just an interesting subject matter. People hear
mhm,
it. There's a bit of a taboo nature. Um, you know, the ones that stick out in a lot of people's heads are what is it, like like Jonestown, and then you have like
mhm.
the Kool-Aid,
Yeah, the
like
Heaven's Gates, all of those.
Heaven's
Yeah.
Gate,
Mhm,
exactly. And people, they think to themselves, how do you get sucked into something like this? Like
mhm,
why are people drawn to something that might be bad for you?
mhm,
Um, and that was a topic that I really wanted to explore, because I wanted to really highlight aspects that it's not always entirely bad, or people in a group mentality, they might do bad things when they're together and they instigate each other. Um, but people are complicated.
mhm,
That's my biggest thing throughout the story. Nothing in life is ever going to be black and white. Um, like for example, Virgil's father is extremely religious, but that doesn't necessarily make him a bad dad for Virgil. Same with Virgil's mother. You know, they're still good parents, but sometimes they can get lost by their beliefs because it's a part of who they are as people. And when significant and important parts of your personality and your being are brought into question, it's almost an attack on yourself and your own character.
Mhm.
So it's just going to be an ongoing character building moment, and that's really what I'm going to be trying to be focusing to do in issues 1 through 12. And with that said, as of right now, we have 1 through 6 done. We'll see if we can even do 7 through 12. We'll see how the reception goes and how the book does in general. We're really hoping we can do it. But in the first 6 issues, it's more of a introduction to Virgil and the afterlife and some key players, mainly one of them being Samuel, which is the centipede, the owl
Mhm.
centipede, um, and Minerva, who is the woman in the library in issue 1. And that'll make more sense to people when they read issue 1. There's a woman in a library who gets a book from her little rock golem named Laurel.
And I'd like to point out too, you know, for the people who don't have like any visual in front of them, like you said, there's like a 10-page preview out there you can check out and everything. And by the time this airs, the book should be out in shops and everything. So hopefully you guys will have a copy in front of you and everything. Anyways, but like Tom is saying, you know, owl centipede and stuff like that, you're probably thinking like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, no, like trust me, like when I tell you, like it works so well. The art style in this book like really fits the tone of the writing very very well. There's some things that I would probably consider, you know, just on page, like before uh, you know, any artist took a stab at it or anything. I would say, God, that's probably a stretch. Like how are you gonna pull that off? But you know, it's really pulled off beautifully and well here. The artist that you have teamed up with really just I don't know, did the unthinkable with this. Like there's such elements in here that work very very wonderfully well. So I think that was a great get. I don't know if that was you seeking out the artist personally yourself, or if you were teamed up through the publisher or what. But
Yeah, I mean, Fred, so his name is Federico Guigen, but he told me to just call him Fred.
yeah, I didn't even want to
Um,
try. That's why I said
yeah,
yeah.
people have tried, so it's fine. Even like on the Scout does whatnots every once in a while. They got the name of the book wrong, so it's fine. You know, it happens. And Fred has a more difficult last name, but um, yeah, so basically what happened was is I wrote issue 1 and then I reached out to Fred. Granted, and I'll even say this right now, the issue 1 that everyone is going to be reading on the 14th is very very different than the initial script that I had written. The initial script that I had written was much more boring, actually. Kind of very much so focused about Virgil in life, and then dies at the end of issue 1. And everyone I spoke to is like, hey, this is a little boring. uh it's good, but it's boring. And I feel like people need to have those kinds of people in their lives that will tell them like, hey, this is something that's not necessarily going to resonate with people. You need something to hook. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. uh I had reached out to Fred. I sent him that script and I gave him my idea, and I talked in the email. I sent him some of the philosophies and Dante and stuff like that. And he reached out and he's like, I haven't worked on comics in a decent amount of time. This story is sounds really cool. I want in. Let's bring this to life. And after a lot of back and forth and talking about the comic and character designs and stuff like that, he kind of just went headfirst into it. Did issue 1. Um, we pitched it to a couple of places. Scout picked it up. They actually reached out really quick. I was super surprised the turnaround rate for Scout. And then we got working on issues 2 through 6. And Fred's really funny because he's like, um, he truly believes that issues 2 through 6 are a million times better than issue one art wise. And I tend to agree with him because I mean, eventually, Dan, I'm going to send you issue two when it gets a little bit closer to release date, and you'll see what I'm talking about because it picks up, art's great, and then we get our introduction to the first God character, and he comes in at 1,000 miles an hour, and I am super super excited for people to meet him. I mean, I made a 3D print of him. He's sitting over my desk right now. I'll send you a picture later,
Oh, very cool.
um, but yeah, no, Fred is unbelievable, unbelievably talented, and also just a very, very nice human being and very passionate about his work. And there's been times where we've been talking and I've loved something that he's created and he's like, no, I don't like it. And I'm like, Fred, I'm making an executive call. We're using this art. And he's like, I don't want my name associated with this. And I'm like, no, 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 it's great. It's fine. Um, so he's just unbelievable.
Yeah, really a fantastic artist, and like I was saying, I mean, definitely complimentary of what you've written here. I think that nailing that tone in the art, would obviously be very important. I'm sure you had something, at least kind of floating around in your head whenever the first incarnation of this before there was any art attached or anything, and I would have to imagine this at the very least met your expectation, if not like highly exceeded it. But
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's basically like, and first of all, thank you for all the very kind words. It's exactly kind of the way that I pictured it in my head. I guess the way that when I'm writing my scripts, it's a bit to the point, and I like to give Fred a little bit of freedom.
Mhm.
And I'd say 85% of the time, it's exactly the way that I see it in my head, which is kind of crazy. The only time, and even for, say, for example, somebody like Virgil, the main character, I literally told Fred it's a 14-year-old boy. That's all I
Oh,
said. I wanted him to just kind of go with it. And that's how one of the aspects of the story kind of evolved because Virgil had blonde hair and blue eyes. His father had blonde hair and blue eyes. His mother has blonde hair and blue eyes. And then I'm like, you know what? Everybody in the cult's got blonde hair and blue eyes, and we're gonna lean into that. So it kind of made its own thing. And even like the first God character, I originally had him a bit more like he had a dad bod in a sense, and now he's just very very skinny, and it's more masks than just like actual faces, which is cool. So it's cool to see what Fred does with all of these character descriptions.
very cool. One of the things that I want to ask you, and I know you already touched on it, so I'll try to rephrase in some way. But I did want to ask about Scout, and I wanted to ask about pitching this and getting it published and everything like that. Let me say, speaking of expectations, what were your expectations with the publisher? Do you have any I don't know, I can't think of the word. Do you have any um uh, contacts in the comic book world? Are there people that you can go to and stuff like that, like where you was this just like a blind pitch out to publishers? Like how'd all that come about?
So yeah, this was actually just going on Scout's website,
Mhm.
following their submission form to a T, exactly what they wanted. I will say that I think they say 6 pages of fully done art is what they requested. Always, I think it's just best to always send a first issue, no matter
Sure.
what. Show that you have a full story. And then I had like issues 1 through 12 mapped out, said this is what I want to do. Granted, that's not what's going to end up being in issues 1 through 12 because it's changed so much since I've even sent that pitch out, and stories just develop as we go. Um, I mean, the most that I've had in the comic book industry is I know some guys at Midtown Comics. Um, that's how we were kind of able to get the exclusive Midtown Comics cover, which I'm unbelievably grateful for. They're the guys over there in Midtown Comics are, they're my local comic book store ever since I was a little kid.
Wow.
So to see them grow as an outlet, phenomenal, and I'm so happy for them. And just to have my book associated with them, or my team's book associated with them, is a dream come true. I mean, it really is. And just to kind of answer a little bit more your question about Scout and the publishing process, um, it's very intimidating, to say the least. It literally went from one sentence from the CEO or whoever it was, like, we're interested, let's talk, to getting boilerplate contracts.
Wow.
It's definitely very, very intimidating going to talk with all my lawyer friends and being like, hey, how does this contract look? Because there's the common idea everyone knows about Marvel, DC, and the shady contracts that people get. But Scout, they're some of the good guys. They're really cool. Their contract is super straightforward for the most part, and it's been it's been a straightforward process, to say the least. So, granted, there's been a common thing throughout most industries, it seems like, with a little bit of communication troubles at times, but I feel like that's most industries. Everyone's so busy, it's going to be tough to hear back. So, but yeah, I mean, I hope that kind of answers it a little bit. I know I can get off off
No, no,
topic.
no. You're fine. Trust me. That's the people tune in to hear about that process and everything. There's a lot of I always tell my guests this. There's the way the comic book community is set up. There's so many aspiring creators. Really into comic books, listening to comic book podcasts, doing all of that stuff. Meanwhile, they're at home, drawing what's going to be the next big thing in 5 or 10 years or whatever, which is really cool. But it's really great for them to hear that process on every level. From somebody who's trying to get stuff published to somebody who has to really seasoned veterans in the game and everything. So yeah, every aspect of that process is very important to hear about. So I know, I appreciate that, and I know the listeners appreciate that as well. So as far as this book, I know you have issues 1 through 6. You've got 7 through 12 planned out, and this is your first published work, correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
So looking far down the pipeline, because I know there's little thoughts here and there probably, but you're very focused on this project, and I completely understand that. So just say for the long haul, is there anything else in there that you'd really like to work on? Are there any? Of course, I'm sure you have other stories you want to tell. There's probably other projects you'd like to bring to life and everything. If you were ever to land I don't know, a deal over at Marvel or DC or something like that, is there a particular character or anything that would be a dream for you to work on?
Oh yes, I have. So it's either a Doctor Strange story or a Constantine story.
Wow.
It's something that I've had in my mind, and I've had the name of the story as well. It would be like a limited, 6 issue, something like that. But it's based around like Blade Runner in a sense, that kind of style. But yes, so I have a Doctor Strange and or Constantine story. I have a Thanos story, and I think I have a Deadpool story as well. So I have a couple that I'd love to do. Um, Obviously, it's such a tough industry just in general, and uh, but Fred and I have talked about it. I mean, Fred and I, we're in it for the long haul now. Me and him, we're ride or die. We've become really good friends through this story. And I like, you see those comic book pairing teams, right? You have like Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, and you
Yep.
have Tom King and Mitch Gerrits. I'm sorry, I'm also really bad with with last names.
I always hear Gerard's or something in my head, but who knows? I'm
Okay,
probably saying it completely wrong too. So
I
you're good.
apologize in advance to
We know who you're
everybody.
talking about.
Yeah. So I'm working hard, and um, for how hard that I'm working, Fred's working 10 times harder. So um, if like the main reason I want to succeed is so that my buddy Fred can succeed and he can do well. I'm also, I'm really really grateful for just my 9 to 5 job that I do right now. I genuinely love what I do. There's absolutely never a dull day going into that office, and the things that I'm able to see and the people that I'm able to help. Um, I love it. And to be able to do the comic stuff as well on top of it, um, it's amazing. So I really would love to do some other stories with Marvel and DC. I think I have um, one more independent story that I have, but it would not be a weekly, like, I'm sorry, a monthly ongoing series. It would be like a graphic novel, and it's a very, very slow burn political drama. So not going to be everybody's cup of tea
Sure.
compared to Divine Power, which is a fun adventure story with lots of action and crazy monsters um, and even some comedy. I think you'll see in some of the later issues, even issue two. Issue two has one of my favorite funny moments in the whole entire series. Um, it's issue two and then issue five are my two favorite, I think. Um, so I'm excited for people to see that and see a little bit of my and Fred's comedy chops as well, because
Yeah.
like you said, it's a very dark and serious environment and topic, so you need a little something to break it up.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, comic shops and comic books, a little underrated. People don't think about that, but injecting a little bit of that in there every now and again really helps move things along and really stands out whenever you have like kind of a darker tone and a more serious message that you're trying to get across. I would like to point out, and again, the issue's not out yet. By the time we publish this, most likely this will be out on Tuesday the 13th, and you guys will be able to run to your local comic book shops and ask them for a copy of this. Hopefully they ordered heavy so you can get them before they sell out. But you guys are going to open up to a page. You're going to get to a specific panel where something just happens, and you go, "Holy shit, that was unexpected!" And it's a really cool moment. And whenever you guys read the book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know Tom knows exactly what I'm talking about. But uh, just a really cool kind of standout moment in the book, and the book is really full of those. There's a lot of standout moments. There's a lot of very visually compelling moments, and then there's well thought out, well paced writing throughout the book. So it's definitely a win. You guys are absolutely gonna want to make sure that your local shops are let them know you want issue number two before FOC for that goes off and everything, so that way you can have that added to your pool. It's going to be very important. Shops usually will order a little heavier on issue number ones for independent books and smaller press publishers and all that. But issue number two, if they don't get like a huge response from pool customers, they kind of dwindle down. They only have like 2 or 3 copies sometimes. I know that's how my local shop is, so I always let them know every single time. I'm like, issue number one of this is coming out. I want to follow it all the way through. Like, make sure that you've got every single issue for me coming in, because I don't want to miss out on those books. And you guys are going to absolutely feel the same way about this one. That is for sure. Tom, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but yeah, I want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me today, and thank you for allowing me to read a copy of this book. Uh, Again, the biggest thing I can say, usually when I do these kinds of interviews, it's usually pre FOC, so that way we can get it out and make sure you guys go to your local shops. You don't have the luxury of doing that this time, so this gets published, and then the next day the book is out. Like the second you hear this episode, hit your local comic book shop up. Make sure they got a copy for you. You're absolutely going to want it. Um, Tom, will this be available anywhere else? Are you selling any like thing on your site, or are they available
It's
to Scout or?
Yes, so it's on Scout's website.
Mhm.
That's basically where I've been uh, sending most people anyway. I think
Great.
that just in general, it'll be a bit easier to get it from Scout. And I know that Scout's also doing a whatnot. Oh boy, let me get you the exact dates as well because I have them in my calendar. If you want a virgin cover. I had my first whatnot with them last week, and they're selling for like $5 a pop. So normally I know virgin covers are a bit more expensive, but it looks like the first whatnot is on Thursday the 15th at 8 p.m. And then there's another one on the Saturday the 17th at 8 p.m. And they're also selling the printer plates. So if you're a collector and you want like a one of one piece, because Fred has not done any physical art for this, so there won't be any physical art other than the one that I have hanging on my wall for the B cover that was done by my extremely talented my cousin's girlfriend, Cathalia Reed. But that is at Saturday the 17th at 12:30 to 3:30 as well. But also let me say, Dan, that it was an absolute pleasure being able to speak with you. You're a wonderful interviewer, and as someone who interviews people like daily, you're an expert. So it's been a
Well,
pleasure, and
thank
I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day because you were telling me earlier that you've done a couple of these today. So I appreciate squeezing me in last bit of the day. So I really thank you.
Hey, well, it's a wonderful book, and I absolutely stand by it. I know you do too. And again, the before I let you go, the main thing that I can point out and illustrate here to everybody is absolutely hit up your local comic book shop the second you hear this. Let them know you want a copy of Divine Power Made Me. Let them know that you want issue 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let them know to add it to your pull. Make sure that's the most important thing you guys can do. Support Tom, support Scout. And make sure you get your copies of that. And yeah, like Tom said, go hit up Whatnot. You guys all have the app. Jump on there and grab a virgin cover. It's going to be awesome. You're going to want it in your collection. Tom, I can't thank you enough. I look forward to seeing your name all over comic books in the future because I know it's happening. And
Thank you.
I have a feeling we're going to talk again soon. So thank you so much
Yep.
for joining me.
I appreciate it, Dan. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and